I don't want to take too much time. They're going to both come up and give us sort of what do you call it, a field report? Does that sound too official or whatever? Some type of report, an overview to give us sort of an idea of what's going on. Okay, I was joking a couple weeks ago that like I had to look up where Liberia even was, and I was kidding, but still. So there might be some here that doesn't, Okay, so anyway, and then right after that, then I'm super excited. Drew's going to preach to us, so I'm so excited about that. So I'm giving them the rest of the time. Let's hear what they have to say. Give them a kind of a hand or something.
Good morning. It is a blessing to be with you all. I know it's been several years y'all have showed up on our giving reports, and our hearts, we pray over the people that give, and so our hearts are so connected with you guys. So we just want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for your support, your love, and your prayers, because we cannot be doing what we're doing without being connected with you all. So thank you. It just means the world to us for sure. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for the praise and worship this morning. It might have been me, actually, that needed that. It really just ministered to me. We've stepped out, we've answered the call, and you'll hear a little bit more about our story, but the enemy likes to lie in our ears, and we will not be shaken. We continue to stand. And we'll share a little bit more about that story, but really just the ministry really touched my heart. So thank you so much, those of you that led us in that time of worship. So, we're here. We want to give you an overview of kind of what we're doing. You saw the video that's there. This is our prayer card. There's some in the back if you'd like that. And so our 3 children are there, Ian, Kayla, and Kirsten. They're currently in Indianapolis. They are homeschooled / cyber schooled. We live with my mom when we're stateside. And so, yeah. So it's been a little while since we've given a presentation. So here, so you're getting version like 8.0. But yeah, so we just want to give you a little bit of a background. If you've never been here, like when we first have come to a church, are the stories a little bit different than churches we've been to like 3, 4, or 5 times. So a little bit more of our background in history. You're going to hear a little bit of that today because I think it's important because God calls individuals. God calls them, and then he sends them forth, and he gives them a mission. We'll talk more about that, but kind of a little bit of our story. And so here we are, June 15th of 2017, and this was the day that we pulled out of our home near State College, PA, not too far from Penn State University. It was our 15-year anniversary. What a wonderful anniversary present to say, wife, we're selling our house and we're taking our kids and we're going across the ocean to Liberia. Who would do that, right? So I want to give you just a couple quick little things for me of how we got to that point, and then she's going to share kind of a story that kind of helped to solidify that. And part of what my message will be today is basically that God speaks. God has spoken so many different things over our lives. In the video, you saw my grandparents, Bob and Evelyn Welch. They went over in 1950. My dad grew up over there. And just one little piece of the story is I was fasting and praying. It was around 2005. And I went up to get some prayer. And the pastor, Lynn, she told me, you need to go see your grandfather and have him pray for you. And so we traveled from Pennsylvania to Indianapolis, and he was in the hospital. And I just really feel like you're supposed to pray for me. And so my grandfather, the one that went and trekked a lot of these places in the bush, just told him he took his hands and laid his hands on my head, put his forehead on my forehead, and he prayed this prayer of kind of like this anointing that was passed from Elijah to Elisha. And I felt the mantle at that time. And the thought of stepping into my grandparents' role, like I can't do that. Like, Lord, I can't fulfill that role. What my grandparents, I can't do that. But I treasured that. And it wasn't at that time for us to step out and to go. But there was that deposit that was made in my heart. Sometime later, 2014, this is the quick version. I was visiting with some Liberians actually stateside that had fled and came to the U.S. and they formed a nonprofit. And from time to time, I go and visit with them once a year. And the Lord woke me up that morning at the conference about 3 a.m. in the morning, and I began to study. I was doing some in-stay studies. Opened up my book, and it was to 2 Kings chapter 1, and it was talking about Elijah's mantle being passed to Elisha. And the presence of the Lord just hit me so heavy. And my wife wasn't with me on that particular trip, and I called her and I said, God's going to do something today, but I'm not saying a word. And so at that meeting, that evening, they asked me to come on as a board member. The Liberians, they had formed their own nonprofit, Love Liberia Missions, asked me to come on as a board member. I submitted that to my pastor. He said yes. And that's kind of what opened the door for us to go back to Liberia. And so there's definitely a connection, a family connection that was there. One last story that I'll share, and it kind of, I think, hits the heartbeat of what we're about. I had a vision, probably around 2004, 2005, and what I had seen was a pile of bodies, black bodies, and they were just piled up, heaped up. And in this vision, I had knelt down, and there was a little boy, and I was wiping the tears off this little boy's face. And I never told anyone that story until I was at one of another conference with some of the Liberians in the States. And one of the gentlemen said, I saw that. I was there. I was there behind the enemy lines, and we had passed bodies like that. And that was a vision from the Lord. And so that's a lot of what our heartbeat is ministering to the broken, ministering to those that are hurting, and wiping away the tears. And for us to be being real with you, that is wherever we go. God, I definitely speak for myself. God's given me a heart of compassion for the broken. It happens to be Liberia right now, but I know there's a call to the nations. So I feel just as called here, present today, as I do in Liberia. It's just the door is the people that God has connected us with. So that's just a small piece of my side, and I'm going to share. Hey, it worked. Awesome.
Hey, it did. So, it's one thing to be called as an individual, right? So Drew has this calling on his life. It is one thing for him to have that calling. It is totally another for the wife to line up with that, and then for the children to line up with that. So Uncle Tom and Aunt Sherry, the Moores, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with some of our other open missionaries. Tom and Sherry Moore Sherry is Drew's father's sister. So
She's my aunt.
Aunt, yes. So long story short, missions runs in the family, and she had come to me and said, "Hey, look, we see this call on your life. You need to go, and you need to make sure that you can take your kids there, because if you can't, and you end up going, it will not be good for you." So there's some wisdom in that. So we traveled in 2016, just Drew and I, and went pretty far interior to what was originally the Open Bible Mission in Liberia. It's a 300-acre mission. And this little girl, you can see in the picture, I don't even know her name, but this child sitting in the dirt, just playing, having a good time, but her diaper was a plastic bag. And a mama's heart just broke. And I'm looking at this little girl going, God, she's filthy. And he just dropped in my spirit. You know what? You were filthy once too. I picked you up. I helped you. I cleaned you up. You're my child. And that's all I'm asking of you. Have compassion on these people. And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, here we go. So this little girl just really had a profound influence on me in terms of, like, can I take my kids to the mission field? Absolutely, I can. Because it's not about me and my wants and my desires. It really isn't. It's for God's glory and God's honor. And so, yeah.
And so we took our kids over to Liberia. When we initially answered the call, which was in March of 2017, we traveled a lot across the United States, almost 25,000 miles in a year, and then took our family over. And all of them had different experiences as far as it comes to Liberia. But just this is a background picture of a little bit of what Liberia is like. First of all, Liberia is a English-speaking country, but it's a Liberian English, so they don't pronunciate a lot of the ends of their words. So they say, "I thank God for this thing or that thing. I'm not going to I'm reaching to this place. I'm not reaching there. All kind of different ways. My children can speak it good. So and so they kind of talking. So if you go there, you may understand it small, but it takes some time to develop your Liberian ear. So when you're talking, so the language can be very difficult at first, but it is in English. And then when we first went there, they're like, "We don't understand you. You sound like blah, 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 blah." I'm like, "We don't understand you. You sound like blah, 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 blah." So when I first started preaching, they didn't understand me, but now like, "Oh, we hear you clear." So it's good. As far as the environment, it's just a very broken down country, nation. Everything is broke. And so the roads in the interior, we had 200 inches of rain. Education system is broke. Banking system is broke. The government's one of the most corrupt in the world. A lot of things haven't changed over the last 50, 60 years, other than people do have little track cell phones. That's probably the biggest change, even in the interior. But we've eaten all kinds of stuff. We ate this. This is a monitor lizard, and kind of looks like a snake when we cooked it up in the soup. We've eaten monkey, bugs, termites, you name it, we eat it, especially when they fix it for you and they're giving you your best. You eat it. They have kind of our version of chicken is shipped in from Brazil. Their local chicken is more of a hard chicken, a country chicken. Sometimes when you go to preach or teach, they give you chickens. Sometimes when we preach, there's chickens running through the service. So not all the churches are that way, but it just kind of gives you a picture.
So Liberian life is nothing like we experience here in the States. So you can see there, that's an example of one of the houses students come from. In fact, our first year student, this was his house, one of the little boys in the learning center. So that's pretty typical. The village that is just outside of the walls of the learning center, that's what you're going to see. As far as cooking goes, they're cooking over an open flame. There's two ways they cook: over an open flame like this, and they also cook over coals. So they use wood coal, much like the charcoal grills that we use here. That concept very similar to that. But all the cooking is done outside. Everything is very social, and so it is really, it's strange in some ways to us because they do everything together. Everything is so communal. And so when we share about the States, they can't believe that we go to work, drive to work, come home, park our car in our garage, and we never say hi to our neighbors. They find that really odd. And because if you don't, it is kind of like socially, I don't want to say awkward, what's the word I want? Like unacceptable if you don't say hello to everybody you see physically. And so that took, for me, that took some doing as you were walking through the village and hello, how's it going? How your day going? If you're not stopping to greet people, it's kind of rude. So that took a little bit of adjusting there, but yeah.
Please excuse me, I'm reaching, yeah. So, I'll let you go. You don't understand what I said? Oh, I said we're reaching, we're headed somewhere, so please excuse me from going there. So, so the people that we were able to get the school from, the property for the school, the village there, it's all intermixed family, whatever it is. So we're very, very connected there. And so, yeah. So the church in Liberia was actually started in 1935. It is one of the oldest countries that Open Bible has been in. I think India was first, and then Liberia was second. And so for 45 years, they worked to establish the mission that was there. In 1980, they nationalized the church. And then you heard in the videos 24 years of civil wars and coups and things of that nature. So my grandparents left in 77. We got our appointment in 2017, exactly 40 years later, to go back. And I serve on the general board and the executive board to help oversee our churches. We have 32 churches, about 12 schools, 2,000 students, humanitarian aid, that sort of thing. I kind of pastor pastors. I deal with a lot of churches and church discipline and training of pastors. This is our newly elected National Field Director, Dr. Hillary G. Paul. I've worked with him. He was the former Assistant National Field Director. So I do a lot of work with the national leadership, their budgets and finance and all of those sort of things. But our main day-to-day ministry while we're over there has been with the Legacy Learning Center. And my wife will share some about that. When we went over, we were not supposed to go over and take anybody's job. You know, they wanted me to be the mission director. I said, no, you guys, we're here to equip you and to empower you. It's not for us to take your role or your position. Mm-hmm. So we were from the Global Missions Board and Vince McCarty kind of tasked with this assignment.
So this is a picture of Legacy Learning Center, which you heard about in our video. Legacy Learning Center really, I said in the video, but it was birthed out of the need for literacy. More than 50% of the people cannot read and write, and we're talking adults here. And the village that we purchased the property from, so oh my goodness, so many of them, they just can't read and write. And you know, how do you rightly divide the Word of God for yourself if you can't read the Word of God? You're trusting on somebody to be able to preach it accurately. And because of the 24 years of civil wars and coups, a lot of people fled, and they fled to other countries. And, well, the gospel doesn't always preach the same in other countries. And so when they came back, you know, they're hearing a different gospel. And so our hearts really were, let's teach these people to read and write so they can read the Word of God for themselves. They can rightly divide it for their own self, right? So Legacy Learning Center, we are in our third year, and it's just been awesome. So all of our literacy instruction is one teacher, one student. So we run it much like you would a pull-out program here in the States, a remedial reading program. So if a kid is struggling, you know, they'll come to the classroom, the literacy coach will come to the classroom, get the kid and go work with them one-on-one or in a small group. Our kids get that. And so what we've seen is our kids went from not even being able to write their own names or barely recognizing any letters. Most of them could not recognize letters in isolation. They could say them auditorily in order, but they could not look at a paper and say, this is the letter R, this is the letter S. They couldn't do that. So the video, I still cry every time I see that video, because Marianne was one of those little kids. I mean, she was so, she struggled so much in the education piece. She couldn't even, when she took a hold of a pencil, she gripped it so hard, like her hand physically would hurt. And all she could do was make lines up and down and up and down. It's like she couldn't. So to see her, it took her 2 years to get through our literacy program, but she's now reading and writing. And it breaks my heart because I know that had she been in a Liberian school, they would have just brushed her off and and she wouldn't have had the opportunity. So, So this is our staff. We have, how many? 11 on full-time staff, and our contractor is also on this picture. But the Lord really opened up a door for these teachers to come to us. And so, you know, when we originally, I wasn't going to share the story, but I'm going to. When we originally, you know, said, Lord, we need teachers, we went to our national leadership and said, hey, can you just help us give us three people, not even teachers, just 3 people who are high school graduates and can read well. Those were the 2 specifications we needed. Our national leadership came back and said, can't find any. Not one person in all of Liberia, first of all, who were willing to relocate. And it's not that we don't have educated people within the national leadership. We do. It's just that they are all stretched so thin and, yeah, didn't want to commit to us, which is fine. So then we went, okay, Lord, there's no one here. There's no one here. So, Lord, you're going to have to supply. And he gave us that first year 5 teachers who were graduates of an American school, like it's a mission station that trains teachers. So these teachers not only could read and write well, not only did they understand standard English, and they were encouraged as teachers going through the system to teach standard English, they also understood the phonics piece, or at least were taught the basic phonics piece, because most of the this is why people graduate at a second grade reading level. Most of the high school graduates are getting phonics in their senior year. Our one young man on staff, he said, yeah, I didn't have to learn phonics until I was ready to go take the graduation test. And that's when I learned it. I thought, wow. So anyway, we're super thankful for our teachers. This is our current class at Legacy. They just, we specifically only have 24 seats in the center so that we keep our numbers really low so that we can provide that one-on-one reading instruction. And we've got 28 this year. So we had to bring in 4 more desks, but I'm telling you, we don't ever have a problem getting those kids to come to school. They show up every day, even when they're sick, which can be a problem, but they do show up every day. So we're thankful for that. So once these kiddos graduate from Legacy, they go through a whole year of reading. Then they head over to Open Bible Academy, same property, just right across on the other side of the property. So, so currently we have a first grade, and these are our current first graders who graduated Legacy, and Marianne right there. So she's one of our current first graders. I don't know if everybody was in this picture, but yeah. Anyway, and our current second graders. So this would have been our first class to graduate Legacy. What we're finding is as they go up in years, so once we don't charge for anything that happens at Legacy Learning Center, but once they go to Open Bible Academy, then they are expected to pay some small school fees. Their school fees don't even remotely cover what we need in order to pay our teacher, but some small school fees. And so what we find as they get older, it's really hard for the people in that community because they don't have jobs, right? There's no source of income. It's all sustenance living. It's just harder for them to pay those school fees. And so we start to see kids drop out. Makes it challenging. So anyway, so I want to share a story. So this is Jeremiah. He was one of the kids in our first year at Legacy. Love Jeremiah. He's just got a fun personality. And his dad is right there. You see his name is Jackson. Jeremiah was coming, to school and just having a great time, loving it. And then all of a sudden, Jeremiah stops coming. And we're like, what is going on? So I went to Jackson. I said, hey, Jackson, we're missing Jeremiah. Is everything okay? And Jackson goes, no, I told Jeremiah he's not going to your school anymore. He's not learning. I said, what do you mean he's not learning? But he's not bringing home, grades, so he's not learning. I said, oh, okay. Well, Jackson, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come to Legacy, and I want you to sit and watch and observe and see what happens. And then you make a decision for yourself. And I'm okay if you want to pull him out. That's fine. That is your decision as a parent. That's what good parents do. They make informed decisions. If you just decide after that you want to pull Jackson out, great. That's okay with us. So he came and he sat and he observed. And I thought, yeah, this is it. Jeremiah's coming back. No Jeremiah. So, a couple days goes by and I'd see Jackson again in the village. I'm like, hey, Jackson, how you doing? How's Jeremiah? And he goes, that child giving me a hard time. I said, He's giving you a hard time. Why is he giving you a hard time? The boy just, he won't go to school. He'll sit down to the house. He won't do nothing. He won't go to the Liberian school. He said, I'm not going to that place because Open Bible is my school. And I thought, okay, Jeremiah is, what's the word? He's going on strike, right? You know, teachers go on strike sometimes when their contracts don't, well, Jeremiah's contract didn't work out with his dad, so he said, I'm going on strike. Anyway, so Jackson goes, man, I just don't know what to do. I said, well, Jackson, he is always welcome to come back. His seat is still sitting there. I'm not filling it with anybody else because, you know, we're not taking new kids. So bring him back. If he wants to come back, he's more than welcome. Next day, Jackson's in school. Jeremiah's in school. And what is really interesting about this story is you would think that would be the end and that would have been enough. If that's all God did, that would have been more than enough. Jackson. So our morning class at Legacy is kind of like our kindergarten class. Our afternoon class is for older students who are already going to school who want some tutoring in reading. We do the one-on-one instruction with older kids and also adults. And so Jackson starts coming in the afternoon because he's like, my kid's bringing home spelling words and he can read and he can write and I want to come too. Can I come? Absolutely come. Okay, I'm going to tell you how big our God is, because if that wasn't enough, I'm going to back up a little bit and tell you some background story on poor Drew. He's like,
you're taking all my
we're going to be here all day.
It's okay, go ahead.
But Jackson, he was, because he was so upset a little bit about his son not having grades and not learning, he started bad-mouthing like what was going on at the Legacy Learning Center to the village. Oh, that school, they're not teaching anything. They're not doing a thing for our children. Why everybody's sending your students to that place? And so he's just going around the village, you know, bad-mouthing everybody. You know, that's, and so now that Jackson's coming to our afternoon classes and learning to read, we have our first PTA meeting, like almost the end of the year, but PTA meeting, and the Liberian parents are sitting there going, oh, we need somebody to be our PTA president. Jackson. They voted Jackson. Why? Because he stood up at that meeting and they gave the parents some time to speak, and Jackson said, you know, I spoke all kind of bad things about this place, but my child is reading. He's writing in such a short window of time. Jackson is one of my favorite testimonials about what God is doing in Liberia. I love it. I just love it. So.
Thank you for that.
Sorry.
We could talk for hours, really. We got so many stories of what God has done. One of the main reasons why we're here today is because of these people that are up here, these teachers and our students. They're not, I know to you, they just look like a face on a page. To us, we hold their hand. We walk life with them, share life with them. And they all have stories. I could pick any of them. I'll just pick one for example. Pastor Peabody, Othello Peabody, is also one of our pastors in a church that's not too far off. They all have crazy stories. He lost his son in the war, and then I think it was more than 10 years. Couldn't find his son at all. Yeah. And then he came on our staff. We would go and preach at his church pretty often. His son returns, found his son. We had prayed with him a number of times that his son would be found. And what a praise report for that. Pastor Peabody, a few years ago, we were able to help him with a motorbike through Open Bible. and that helped him to come to work where we are. And unfortunately, his son, not too long ago, stole his motorbike and sold it to run to Europe. Yeah, his heart was so broken. He's got a number of different kids. They live in a little room there. He's been a faithful teacher for us since the beginning. So he loves to beat the drums and everything. But they all have stories like that. I see their faces. You guys are not just sending money to us or to Legacy. I want you to understand that it affects people's lives. A lot of them have children. I know their children. I know when their children go hungry. And part of what we're doing is providing them employment. There's really not much employment in Liberia. Us running this school is helping to change their lives. We pay them 12 months salary because we want them to be consistently able to feed their families. Most of the schools over there only pay for 10 months. And from the beginning, we want you to be able to count on something. And their school year is longer anyway. Like our closing this year is July 18th, and we'll open in August. But still, a lot of our ministry is discipling these people. A few of them were Muslims. I'm not sure exactly when they came to Christ, but we have working lunches and we minister to them, teach them. And so a lot of our ministry is directed at them, not just our students. These are just some of them. They're singing songs. It's so awesome to hear them singing songs in their village. We walk through and you hear, it's like, wow, it's really, really powerful. There's so much that we could share, but I want to just come to this slide here. So we have provided this presentation, I think, to the church and through a link. Okay, and you can scan the QR code, and it comes up to this is a Google slideshow that's on there, and I just quickly want to go over some of these. And so the way it works with an open Bible is we have an individual account that's connected with our name. There is no general global missions budget. Everything that is raised is connected with us or through funds, designated funds that are connected with us. That's how it works. And so if you click on these when you're in the presentation, it will take you to a different slide, and it connects to. I'll just show you, for example, on our slide. We have individual slides, QR codes take you to the web page. We also have little videos for all of those designated funds as well. But I just want to give you a quick overview of some other things that we have. We created a benevolence fund. You can see a little boy there. He fell in a fire, burned his skull. And a benevolence fund, we're able to help him. Some of our teachers and staff, they've been injured, motorcycle accidents, arms that were electrocuted and blown off. Somebody with an appendix that was going to burst, and we were able to send him to the hospital. A young lady that was going to have her arm cut off. She fell through glass. And so when people give to that benevolence fund, it's basically medical emergencies that save people's lives. Mm-hmm. We initially started it with kind of like just a blessing bucket. Sometimes it can be a little bit of food. We oftentimes are encountered. You guys can pray for us. This is one of our as missionaries, hardest place to be, with all the brokenness and needs that are there constantly. They see the white face, and strangers. Hey, white man, I want this. I need this one. And a lot of we've had to really pray and ask God for wisdom. We've had to realize that Jesus is enough. For one, Jesus is enough. He loves more. He cares more than we do. And we've had to give that to him. But we were able to start that. Our Vince McCarty heard us giving a presentation that we weren't allowed to give funds to meet needs like this. And he said, no, we can. So we were able to start the benevolence fund. Right now we have about $200 in that fund. Thank God for that. There's so many needs that come up. And when people come to us, oftentimes life is in our hands. They will die, basically, if not. And so sometimes we give personally out of our own. Mean a lot to us. If that fund would be able to grow, or hey, let us know. you know, if the fund is low, we need some funds because we meet the need automatically. Usually we try to have a little bit on hand, and then we get reimbursement from Open Bible, and we'll sometimes send pictures. Sometimes they're gruesome. We don't always put those in our newsletters because it's not too flowery. My wife doesn't like it when I don't want to see that. I'm like, look, this is what, see this guy's scar? Look. But, yeah.
If it's just a scar, we don't have
Well, the appendix, it didn't heal well. Anyway, we have a Legacy Learning Center project fund. That's kind of a general overall fund of anything that's going on that campus. It can be a building project. Sometimes we use it to help with teacher salaries, some other things. Our school health and education program generally is feeding our kids and deworming our kids. And so our current needs, we have a sponsor for our Legacy class, and we're looking for some sponsors for first grade, second grade, and third grade for that. Oftentimes kids in Liberia, they don't know the meal they're going to get if they're at school. We also have an Amazon wish list you can click on. We have all kinds of different items on there that help with the school. They can be shipped to a location. There's descriptions on there. We also have student sponsorship fund. And so we have a video that shows the context of one of those. I don't know if you want to skip that.
Maybe we can show it.
What do you want to do, Pastor? Message. But
We want it all.
or you can watch the video. If you watch the video next week or another time, it'll be fine too. It just gives you a little bit of a context of what it's like. The student's name is Josephine. We were able to show this video at a church in Illinois, and they were only going to raise funds for one student, and it turned into a lot more than that, 10 times the offering. So they had the pastors had sponsored a child, and then they showed it to the church, and then the church was a lot more that was there. And so these are kind of the general funds that connect to pages on our Open Bible site.
How long is the video, Joe?
I think that one's 3 minutes or so.
Can I watch it, please?
You want to watch it? All right.
We can sponsor a child.
Yes, we can.
Is Josephine with 9 years.
And which class are you in?
I go to school with Open Bible Academy.
When Josephine first came to us, she was not able to read or write. After graduating from Legacy Learning Center, a whole new world has opened up to her. She is now one of the strongest readers in her first grade class. Josephine walks about 10 minutes each day to school. Okay, so Precious, you are Josephine's mother? Yeah. So what's the thing you can be doing to help provide for your family? What things can you be doing?
Well, we are trying to make business.
Which business are you trying to make?
To be selling fish or other things.
Fish and different things. Do you sell any of the things that you grow?
Yes, sometimes I sell the okras and the cassava.
Okay, so you'll sell your okra and cassava leaves sometimes when you have it, if you have extra. How about your husband? He working?
He's a motorcyclist.
Okay, so he is like a motorbike taxi driver, right? So he picks people up and carries them where they need to go, and so that's how he makes money. Josephine would like to show us where she sleeps. She shares a mattress on the floor with her sister Melody. So where's a place you can be getting your water?
Drinking
Your drinking water? Where you get that one?
to Open Bible Academy.
You go the whole way to school to get your drinking water from there. Okay, so where the water that you can be used to wash your clothes, that kind of thing, where you get that one from? To your neighbor's house. We'll get that on the way back. We'll film that one on the way back, okay? How about this one? This was a little bit of a personal question, and if you don't want to answer it, it's okay. Where's a place you can be using the bathroom? Where do you go to the bathroom? Where's that at? You go in the bush, right? Yeah. So oftentimes students, they don't have necessarily toilets at their house, but we have toilets at the school, so they can just use the bush. Okay, so they bathe with this water and wash with this water. So this is the water at the neighbor's house. Can you show me how it works?
How many of those 3 times? How many of those 3 times? Then us count. 1, 2, 3, 4,
So Josephine, there, that home, I'm not sure it's actually theirs.
It's not, no.
So that's a little bit deceiving because really what happens is most of the concrete structures are Liberians that are Americans that have dreams of going back and living there one day. So they will provide families like a bag of rice and a little bit of food to watch the property. And so that was not their property.
No.
It's usually not the case. Most of them live in the type of building we showed you earlier with the zinc, a little bit of sticks and the zinc that's there. But we don't have videos for every kid. We just kind of highlight kids at different times, show video, and then we usually share it and connect people on the back end of how their money has helped. One of the things we've learned over the years, we used to do a sponsorship program through the nonprofit that I was president of, is that oftentimes these kids are moved around so much. There's no such thing as a nuclear family. There's no adoption, any of that sort of thing. And so people in the community just take the child in, or family members take the child in. They just get shuffled around. They're basically household slaves. They're fortunate if they get to go to school. And so when you have kids that are moving, every couple months or whatever, it makes it tough. So, yeah. We have, pull up the last slide, a lot of different ways you can connect with us. And our emails, Welch at Open Bible. We're on Facebook. We can do Zooms if you wanted to do live stream at times or Zoom recordings for Open Bible webpage. We have a list of all of our current projects, and we've made videos for each of those projects. And so there's a lot. One of my goals, I'm hoping, is that we can connect and dialogue more about ways that you can be involved and partner with us. So if there's anything in particular, when you click on that link, it will take you to the list, all kinds of different things that are going on. So, any questions? Yes.
I have a comment for people about what we do here as we're taking an offering. Anytime anybody in the church would want to make a special offering to the Welches and the ministry there, you can also do it right here through Lakeside. We can send it in to Open Bible. It'll be specifically labeled for this particular ministry. You can put in your little memo. You want to sponsor a child, you want to do this or whatever. That would also be a way, if they don't have access or able to do it online, they can do it right through us as well.
One quick comment, and the designated funds that we had up earlier, if you do put it in the memo line, use that designated fund line, because it just makes it easier on our end. So yeah.
Yes, sir. You talked about all the different things that you would say were broken. You said the government's even broken. How much does that affect you guys as far as what you're allowed to do? I mean, we think of all these horror stories going on around different places in the world. How much does that affect you guys? The government being a problem.
Well, we're thankful that it has had peaceful elections. So Joseph Bokai, the new president there, has already begun to audit numerous departments as far as the government goes. With us being there with the white face, sometimes they want to hold us to what is actually in the books as law, but most of the laws are not actually enforced. So sometimes it puts us in a gray position on some things, but we
far as schooling goes, we start quote unquote charging. I say charging loosely because it's, like I said, it's nowhere near the full amount. Starting with first grade. So currently, our first graders and second graders are expected to pay some form of school fee. Yes. Yes, you can also sponsor. I mean, we open up the sponsors to also the legacy students because there's still ongoing costs. We have to pay for teachers and you know, myriad of other things. But yes, so it really, the sponsorship is opened up to all of our kids. Yeah.
So what we're doing on that campus is it's kind of experiment. And sometimes we don't like to hear that word, experiments. We want everything to be figured out and sorted and whatever. But this whole campus was nothing but bushes when we started. And so since 2018, from the church, we church planted September 5th of 2021. And then we opened the literacy center, and we're opening a school. And it's not so it can be Western run. It's not to be fully funded with Western dollars. What we're trying to do is to figure out how can we come alongside of them so that they can run and manage the school so that we can take that to our other 12 open Bible schools. And so I'm talking with the principal and leadership, what would it look like for us to help you, for the next 5 years, whether it's helping write with curriculum, training teachers. And so I've met with our education director as well across all of our schools and creating handbooks. We got all the schools in the last 2 years to sign up. Yes, we will join the whole large open Bible school district, so to speak, but we're still in that process of making that all come together. So this property is a location where we're trying to figure out what that looks like. And so if we take Western curriculum there, with the expensive Western curriculum, it's not going to be feasible to take to other schools. Yeah, or to duplicate it. So we're trying to figure out what that looks like. And so for our students, they pay a small portion mainly for their registration, their school uniform. And so the sponsorships we've used at this point, we've used to cover the tuition amount, which we're trying to make the tuition amount enough to cover the cost of our teachers. So oftentimes teachers in Liberia, they're basically volunteering their time. A lot of our open Bible schools, they don't even get enough to cover their transportation to go to work. Is the truth of it. We have the teachers we have are highly qualified and committed. They have been awesome. We go to some other schools. Classrooms are empty because no teachers are present. And so a number of things are just complicated. We can go on and on about some of these things. So we're looking at about $27,000 a year as far as running the campus, the Legacy Center, the Open Bible Academy, those two pieces. We have a church plant as well. It's another piece, and the feeding program is not inside there either. So for us as missionaries, we're like, okay, how do we break this down? Is it through $30 a month student sponsorship? Is it through a $200 a month sponsor a teacher? Do you want to support maybe a program or different things that are built inside of that budget? I don't know if you'll be able to see that from here. And this is just a small piece. I deal with building projects. I deal with all kinds of national church, other properties. We have a lot on our plate. But we have like back to school programs, Christmas programs, some other things. But basically, however you want to break it down, we're game. We're just trying to figure out how do we make this work. And that's the main reason why we're here. Otherwise, we'd be in Liberia right now. We thank God that our personal support has been pretty steady. God's been faithful since we stepped out and answered the call. The first 6 months were like, how, Lord, are you going to do this for us to go? But gradually, we have a pretty solid base. So we're really not here asking for you to give to us personally, or we need this even to go. We've established a pretty solid foundation for that. Not that we're there on a monthly of what this amount is covering us monthly, but we have churches that like Christmas or whatever. Here's our one time for the year. It works out. And so, but there's a lot of different needs that are on that we're facing. And then when you are signing contracts, back to the government side, and they want contracts signed, even though we're doing it under the name of the national church and not the international ministries, how much money do you have in the bank before you sign a contract? To guarantee when we're relying on donors to help cover the cost of tuition. So that's something we're praying about and asking the Lord for wisdom. Is that 3 months reserve or is that 6 months reserve before you sign? Because as soon as you sign, then you're held legally liable. Mm-hmm. And then they can come back and take the property or wherever else. So if we're going to put our name on something, we want to be faithful, to follow through with that. And so, yeah, we ask you to pray and however the Lord would have you be a part would be much appreciated. So many needs. Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to feel, feel for how many grade levels does the government provide, and how many grade levels does church ministry provide?
So there are some government schools, but not many, and they do go through. They actually start around 3 years old. Nursery class, and then they have like a pre-K, then a K1, and then there's a K2. They have like 4 or 5 classes before first grade. Mm-hmm. The challenges with their government schools is they will put 50, 60 kids in a classroom with one teacher, with no resources. Mm-hmm. We've stepped into a classroom, and this was an American-run school, and the teacher didn't show up, and they sent a child over from, I think, 4th grade at the time, over to be the teacher for the day. A 4th grade student be the teacher, and we were both teachers by training as well. So we stepped in, and I'm like, okay, so what do you have available? And they're like, can we get some paper? Like, we can have one sheet for the whole class. One sheet of paper? I was like, wow. So there are some government schools that are around, but they're pretty poor quality. And so that's where we got ourselves in a little bit of a situation because we had these children that we had 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds enrolled in our legacy program, first time ever being in school. Mm-hmm. And then in less than 1 year's time, we are advancing them. They were graduating around 1.6 grade level for their reading. I was also a librarian. I was a number of teaching positions. So you talk about AYP. I don't know if there's any adequate yearly progress. We were closing, according to them, 3-4 years gap. So now you have these kids that are reading almost not quite a second grade level after graduating legacy. Where do you send them? Do you send them back to the public school? We had kids coming from the public school coming over to us in the afternoon. They couldn't read. 4th, 5th grade. They couldn't identify letters. Yeah. Couldn't identify letters. So like we can't send them there. And then if they're 13, now we have like kid in 15 in second grade. So we got to figure out, okay, how do we accelerate or how do we go to another school? These are the types of things we're trying to deal with. And we're both teachers, but we're also like preaching, church planting, building projects, and humanitarian aid. And I'm dealing with national budget issues, pastoral things, all kinds of, all over the place. But we are thankful that this has kind of focused us a little bit. But yeah, there's so many needs.
Yeah. So back to your question a little bit. So yes, our current Open Bible campus, we have the Legacy Learning Center, 1st and 2nd grade, and that's all the further we go right now because what we're doing is when they graduate from Legacy, they become our feeder program for Open Bible Academy, and we're only doing one Legacy class a year, so we're only adding one Open Bible Academy class a year. And so, that's where we are right now. So hopefully, by God's grace, we'll at least get up to the 6th grade. This building that we built is designed to have a 2nd floor story on top, and it's also designed to have a 2nd wing coming out the side, 2 stories. So that will house 6 grades. Again, another thing we're fundraising for because right now this building, while the floor, this top level is casted, it's concrete, they get 200 inches of rain a year. I know we were just talking with somebody who was telling us Oregon, a couple of years ago or here, I don't know, recently or whatever, they had 50 inches of rain in a very short amount of time. We get 200 inches of rain in like about 6 months. So concrete is porous. So our first and second grade classrooms get because we can't keep it dry. So one of our really what we want to do is at the very least get a roof put on, and hopefully maybe another classroom up there. We'll see. By God's grace, we'll see what happens. So
we've skipped surgery and all that. It's kind of like babysitting, glorified babysitting. And so we do a screening to make sure that they're ready to come to Legacy Learning Center. And most of them have graduated in 1 year. Had a few that have gotten sick or a little bit slower. Need more time. But so then from there they go straight into first grade. So we have 3 classrooms. We need to get a newer updated
picture.
One. Second grade is in here. First grade is in here. Our church plan has been meeting on this side. So this upcoming year, if the 3rd grade moves into here, the church plan, we either have to move back to Legacy or they'll have to tear down. And so trying to get 3 more classrooms up top, which will get us through 6th grade. That's kind of my goal at this point, is to stop at 6th grade. Because you go to the junior high level, it's a whole nother beast. We've sat in on classrooms of people that have mathematics degrees and they can't teach how to add or subtract decimals or teach it the same way as multiplying. It's just like
mind-boggling.
I've been through some. They catch some of their mistakes. I try not to embarrass them, in front of the students or whatever. Our teachers that most of them that are with us are certified through 6th grade. You go to the junior high and high school level, it's a whole nother thing. We're right on the outside of Monrovia, the capital city. So we're getting in right while things are developing and booming. So we're still pretty rural. And so to find teachers that are willing to come where we are, that are highly certified, is also difficult. Even our teachers are we had to work with them to try and get them to come down and be committed. They spend almost $2 a day to come down. And our teachers that have an associate's degree, they're getting $150 a month. So to come down for 22 days times 2, there's $44. And then by the time you buy your bag of rice, a little bit of soup for your family, another $50, $60. And then expenses for your phone, and that's not, anything medical. Our teachers, we pay them what the government recommends by their pay rate. So what the public teachers would get paid. Most of our private schools, they get half of that, if that. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Can I ask you both a personal question? I feel so bad that you're kind of moving through your time.
Oh, it's fine. We're flexible.
This is so Holy Spirit that needed for all of us right now. But I think my question maybe will help some other things too. I'm wondering just if you could give us sort of an answer to how you personally, maybe it's, I don't think it's too personal, if you want to share it, but how do you personally deal with discouragement or the overwhelming task at hand kind of thing? I think some of us probably sit here listening to this and going, wow, I feel bad that I have a hard time getting up on Monday morning and trying to get to work. You know what I mean? And then we hear all this and it's such a broad, huge thing you guys are doing, and we almost feel convicted. You know what I mean? It's sort of like a cheese, but it's so much bigger than my worries. And so I'm curious as to how you've got to at times deal with discouragement from lack of help or interest or different things that come against you or the overwhelming thing. How do you guys deal with that?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
So the first thing I would say, and this is part of what I don't think we'll make it to the sermon today.
Yeah,
this is the sermon. Is that it's God who calls, and God has a mission. We are all born with a mission, and it's to serving God's mission. And I would say, and I say that because the foundation has been laid through years of obedience and serving. And so it's really just the next step. It's just the next step, just the next step, just the next step, and keeping in step with the Lord. Our journey has been a God story. And if it wasn't for that God story, if it wasn't for that journey, we probably would have given up already, to be honest. but we know that we're doing what God has called us to do. And you hear me share my testimony. It's like, a hammer is made to nail a nail. I know that I know this is what I was created for, what God created me to do. I know that I know. And going on the mission field, it can look glamorous at first, the travel or whatever. Let me tell you, that wears off real fast. If that's where you're going. Okay, and we've gone from when we first went to basically hauling water, no electricity, all of that, to kind of like concrete camping. We still don't have electricity all the time. We still don't have water all the time. We're building an apartment, but it was just a journey of stepping out and watching God. Some of the challenges we face, we don't have time to share all the challenges we face within the church and outside of the church. But on a personal side, as far as our family goes, the whole reason, one of the major reasons we went, we knew all along that God was calling us, but my wife had a stroke in 2012. I grew up hearing all the missionary stories, my dad, my aunt, and I said, I don't want that for my family. I'm willing to go, Lord, but I don't know if I'm willing to take my wife and my kids or put them in harm's way. My wife had her stroke, and your kids are like, is mommy going to die? So that's not something you want to hear from your kids. That's a story in itself. But it was through that stroke that I said, Lord, I place my wife in your hands. I place my kids in your hands. And when we did that, the doors just started opening up. And the Lord used that painful trial, that squeezing, to release us into ministry in Liberia. And people say, what? Your wife had a stroke? Your wife has to go to doctor's appointments? It was a progression. So when we were accepted to go to the mission field, she was still having appointments every 3 months at Johns Hopkins. She had a special case accepted into there, and the Global Missions Board approved us. We went on that. I wasn't sure they're going to approve us. We can't go. At that time, we were thinking, we can't go for 10 months. We can't go for a year. She has to come back every 3 months. But it's not a crutch. It's the very thing that God used to send us. Because we said, we surrendered, Lord, whatever you want us to do. We've stepped out. We've been faithful. And right where we're at right now, it has been tested constantly since we've gone. I could go through attack after attack after attack on our family and some of our extended family. Probably the largest one since we've gone has been my dad. So my dad committed suicide in July of 2020. We were in Liberia at the time, and it's been hard. It's been very hard. We were just wrapping up, I think, an 11-month trip. Like, how do you go 11 months? I can't go more than 3. Well, she started traveling back on her own every 3 months for treatment. But thank God, like 2 years ago, she doesn't have to go back. Now she has an injection she takes every month. So, but yeah, my dad committing suicide was a major challenge. He was a believer, and we came back. We were actually supposed to be itinerating here in that fall of 2020 in Washington and Oregon. And it was during COVID, so I'm not sure it's going to work out. Anyway, that's been it. It's been tough. I can tell you for months, I'm like, Lord, I don't even know if I'll be able to preach again. And then we visited our home church back in Pennsylvania, and the Holy Spirit just moved on me. And I was like, I will be able to preach again. It's just going to take some time. And first year was extra hard. And then we needed to go back to Liberia and launch the Legacy Learning Center. And it was being constructed and get that up and running. That was a very stressful time. And so it had an impact on our marriage, it had an impact on our kids. And so, again, we know that we're called, we know that we're stepping out, but it's not without, things being difficult or challenging at times. Someone want to jump in?
Kind of 2 thoughts. The first is in kind of relationship to what he was saying. When we first knew that the timing of the calling of God has released us from our place, home in Pennsylvania. I don't know how to describe it other than, when when the Israelites were traveling through the desert, they had the cloud by day, right? And so we just really felt the cloud had lifted from Pennsylvania and it was moving. And if we did not move it with it, we would not have had the protection of the Lord. And I'm telling you, that has kept us, knowing that we have stayed under the cloud. And whenever the cloud moves again, we will move with it. But that has kept us. No matter what storms come, no matter how bad it gets, that covering has been our protection. And so, yes, we could go on and on about the challenges that we see, but it's really been that covering that's key. And the other piece, I think, for us, when we first went to Liberia, there was so much, and we didn't have legacy established or anything like that when we first went. There was just so much that the needs were just so great. And so I think for us, having Legacy and Open Bible Academy has really solidified that vastness. It's no longer quite as vast for us. And the people that we come in contact with every day, that's our ministry, right? So it's really enabled us to, if it doesn't line up with the vision of what God is calling us to do right here, right now, sometimes that answer is no. When we get needs that come to us and be like, can you do this for me? Well, it doesn't line up with, and so it's been a little easier to say, that sounds so bad. It's been a little easier to say no because it doesn't line up with the vision. And some of that is just because we also know that in that covering, that vision needs to line up as well. And so, yeah.
That we are truly praying for you. Like for my wife and I, in the ministry for a lot of years, and we have 4 children and have grandchildren, great-grandchildren. One of the stories you shared real quick that just really grabbed my heart 2 years ago was your son. When he got malaria once or twice, and he got fake medicine and all that. I'm like, how do you do that, Dad? Knowing that you know that you know that you know. That's what keeps you keeping on. So I respect that, honor that. And you know that you know that you know. Nothing else can take that away, right? You stay where you're planted, no matter how long.
Yeah, faithful where you're at till the Lord opens something new.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. The kids is a tough part. All the kids respond to the mission field differently.
Yeah.
And my son had about 30 buddies. They would fish and play soccer or football, and they learn the language better than we do. But our girls were very isolated and very alone because most of the girls over there don't have time to play. So if they're fortunate enough to go to school, usually it's the boys that go to school, the girls don't get to go to school. But if they're fortunate enough to go to school, then they go home and they're working, hauling water, cooking, whatever. And so our girls just didn't have anybody around. So that was hard for them. It was difficult. And then my dad's passing made it even more so. And so at this point, our kids are staying back stateside. They're all in high school now. So our son is in 12th grade. One of our daughters is 11th, and the other is 9th. So although Ian is going to go back with us on our next trip, we had last trip through global missions. He graduates this year with 18, and he's going to be an electrician. We're excited about that. Which is easier for me with the college bill. I'll take it. Then you start working right away, and then Kayla will graduate the following year. So we're kind of in this season of regrouping and trying to minister to our family, being faithful to the ministry that God has called us to. Global Missions has been awesome. They're looking at us as a long-term investment. I'm taking some classes related to missions, missiology, working on my master's in divinity as well. And so, I believe we have a call to the nations. I think we'll always be involved with Liberia. It's not just a 2-year or 3-year appointment to us. It's family to us. I know we use that word a lot in our culture, family. But we go over there, literally, it's generations of people on. And so I think we'll always have, even if we're not missionary, at some point you plant a church or whatever, I think I'll still be going back and doing trips and visiting and seeing things through. I'll always, I think, have a part in Liberia. Balancing ministry and family is, that's maybe one of the seasons we're in right